Hey there, and welcome to the Knee Gurus, your guide to understanding knee injuries and recovery. I'm Bevan Collis, physiotherapist and founder of Asia Physio. With our clinics in Japan and Singapore, we help people get back to doing what they love. Each episode, we dive into real stories and expert conversations about life after a knee injury, from surgeons and physios to patients who've been through it all. So whether you're fresh off an injury or just curious about your options, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Knee Gurus podcast, where we explore the people, ideas, and emerging approaches that are changing the way that we think about knee injuries and recovery. Today's episode is a fascinating one. I'm joined by Patrick Lachance, who's tore his ACL and chose to go down the cross-bracing protocol pathway. He had the goal of giving his ACL the opportunity to heal rather than moving immediately towards reconstruction. What makes Patrick's story really interesting is how seriously he approached the healing process. He didn't just brace it and hope for the best. He looked at what he could control to put his body in the ideal state to facilitate healing. And spoiler alert, he had a great heal. So today I really want to unpack the whole journey, how the injury happened, how he came across to decide on the cross-bracing protocol, what those first few weeks will look like, and how he's gone since then. So let's dive in. Patrick, welcome to the Knee Gurus. I'm really excited to hear your story.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. So can you give us a little bit of background about who you are, where you live, and then let us know what happened to your ACL? Take us back to the injury, what happened, and how you ended up tearing it?
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm in my 50s. I've been in Okinawa, Japan for a few decades. I've lived more of my life in Japan than I have in the States. I'm an American living abroad. I love it out here in Japan. Obviously, I've stayed for so long. I've really enjoyed a career out here and raised a family as well. Um, but yeah, just I'm a pretty active person generally. Go to the gym, I run and do, play a little bit of sports here and there, but I happen to be just playing some indoor soccer with a little church group, and I'm a little competitive because I'm an active person, and I like getting out there and running up and down the field,
Yep,
with the young guys, and
I know.
I've done it before, run up and down the field for an hour, no problem. Like I'm pretty well conditioned for it. And then and I played a little bit of soccer growing up when I was a young kid, so I'm not totally foreign to the sport. But I'm not a pro either by any stretch. But yeah, I was just playing a little bit indoor soccer, and it's got like that concrete floor with the that fake grass on top.
Oh, yep, yep.
It was a little bit, probably a little bit grippy, I would
Mm,
say, and I was kind of going for the ball, and it just kind of had a lot of forward momentum going, and I braced with my left leg and kind of locked up a little bit, and then torqued with my right leg to try to get to the ball, and I must have did something that I've never done before because I just felt a pop, and
mm.
then
An infamous pop.
yeah, the crazy pop. And what was interesting is I didn't feel any pain, but I just knew right away, just from, living my life and hearing about athletes and sports and knowing how dangerous soccer was for ACLs. Uh, I just knew right away it must have been an ACL that I popped, and I just walked off the field, and I
Mm,
was like, okay, well, I guess I got to go get this checked out. And I ended up going to the ER that night, and I got an X-ray, and fortunately, no bone damage or anything like that from the
mm,
X-ray. And then the next day, I went straight to get an MRI, and then of course we saw the problem with the ACL
yeah.
in the MRI. The doctor diagnosed it. Of course, right away I thought, well, I need to try to get surgery. I need to fix my I need to fix my ACL. I thought that was the standard procedure at the time.
And was that the
And
advice you got from the doctors, or what was their
so
sort of counseling?
surprisingly enough, the Japanese doctor said, "You're kind of old.
Yep.
you don't necessarily need surgery. You don't necessarily need an ACL. And I'm like, wait, but I'm an active person. I still want to be active.
Yep.
So I was a little confused at that response. And
Interesting.
so I thought, okay, well, let me do a little research on this and see what I can maybe figure out along the way. And did a little research, and I found some Instagram videos. I found some things on YouTube and some Google searches. I first discovered the global physio, Dr. Kieran
Kieran Richardson.
Richardson.
Yep, we've had him on the
Yes,
podcast. So
yes,
another
I
leading ACL healing kind of expert.
yeah, I stumbled across his work initially, and then I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. Well, let me go down this path and let me see. And then I discovered about this bracing protocol. So I got on a call with them probably about 9 days after my injury,
With Kieran
and
Richardson.
I was in. It was one of his physios
Hmm.
because Kieran Richardson he was booked up for like a whole month or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yep.
yeah, so I had a call with one of his physios that works with him, and was informed that if I wanted to try to do the bracing protocol, I should try to get a knee brace and then bend my knee at about 40 degrees or so initially, just to get the weight off of it, stop extending it, get a little bend going on, going there so I could, potentially get some healing
About
beginning and
how,
starting.
so sorry, you said this is about how many days post injury?
This was at 9 days post injury.
9 days. Oh, wow, that's terrific advice to get at that stage. Not many people get that advice of take your weight off it, keep the knee bent, get it in a knee brace. So you did really well. One of the things I'm interested in is the kind of profile of people who kind of find themselves drawn to this somewhat experimental healing philosophy of trying to heal your ACL. Would you say you've always been an alternative thinker? You've obviously got an interest in health, but what sort of was most people would just think, when you tore your ACL, you get surgery, or what sort of do you think is in the way that you think drew you to um, those posts and information that you found on the internet? Have you sort of always been an alternative thinker when it comes to health, or?
I guess I probably have grown into that in the past 10 to 15 years, especially. Um, I've Yeah, if I can do the natural way,
Hmm.
I'll try to do the natural way first as much as possible.
Love it.
I try to eat a lot of whole foods as much as possible and less processed foods. Yeah, I've gone down like the keto carnivore diet path,
Hmm.
10 years ago, and cleaned up my diet, got a lot healthier. All my health markers got a lot better. My VO2 max is pretty decent, I guess, for my age, and yeah. So, and I tried to just have a good healthy weight, and then just try to be active and build enough muscle to be relatively strong. I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder or anything, but just overall health and longevity is kind of what I've been going after. I've been on that path for quite a while now. So, in fact, I did have a knee injury about 12 years ago, and it was a collision I had when I was playing some ultimate frisbee with another player,
Hmm.
and it was a meniscus tear, and I ended up going to see the doctor about that. He checked, he did the Lockman test and made sure it wasn't a ligament or anything that was damaged, and
Hmm.
he said, "Yeah, it just looks like a meniscus tear." He was basically saying to me, it might heal on its own. You might need surgery. Just, see what happens. And if you heal, then you don't need surgery. So I kind of just, yeah, slowly healed from that. Maybe 4 or 5, 6 months. I just gradually ran farther and farther and farther. And then eventually I had no pain after about 6 months or so, and my meniscus healed completely on its own, no surgery needed. So those were the kind of things that were in the back of my mind as I'm going forward with this potential, natural healing process for the knee with the ACL.
Terrific. And so you can take us back to the conversation with the global specialist physio team. You were told to keep the knee bent, put a brace on to fix it in flexion. And but then could you find a brace that you could fix? Is that how you ended up coming to us at Okinawa Physio or Asia Physio?
So yeah, I did order a brace on Amazon. It wasn't that great of a brace. It was,
It's hard to find good
but it
ones on
did
Amazon. Yeah.
yeah, it did the job, I guess, temporarily at that 40-degree angle. And then I was consciously, okay, not bending my knee, not extending it, and then walking kind of on the ball of my foot on that one
Nice.
side. I was doing that for a little while, and there was a potential where I could have followed up with Global Physio, but I discovered that Asia Physio, Okinawa Physio, also known as,
Mm.
was here in Okinawa. And then I thought, well, if I can go in person, why should I just continue to do this online? So I was able to set up a consult with the Okinawa Physio, and then I went there to the office in Yomitan, which is here in Okinawa, the larger of the two offices here in Okinawa.
Yep.
And they took a look at me, and they said, okay, yeah, you're on the right path, but we'd like to see you in a better brace. We'd like to see you, if you're a candidate still, we'd like to see you do the 90-degree protocol potentially. But the problem was now we're getting into 3.5 weeks post-injury,
Yep.
and then I learned really quick that okay, that healing window potentially is going to be closing or already closed. I was a little worried about that.
Totally.
So they requested that I go get a new MRI,
Yes.
which I did, and then I went back the next day after that new MRI. And then we had a consult with one of your Asia physio doctors in Singapore.
Yes,
And
Dr.
then
Ken
we,
Shea, who read the MRI for you, because that's often the
yes,
big challenge is finding someone who can read the MRI to give that predictability or the likelihood of healing, because there's really not that many radiologists out there who know about the different grades of ACL tear types and how to match that up with the healing potential of that particular tear type. So that's terrific. They're able to get in with Ken, who's one of the world's best at that.
yeah. So he took a look at the MRI, and he said that it still looks like there's a potential there for it to heal. It wasn't. I can't remember the terminology, but I guess if the fibers
Gap
if
distance.
they're separated and they curl apart, I guess there's not a good chance for a heal. But he said the fibers looked straight, and then there was only about a 4.5 millimeter separation in the ACL. So he
Great.
said that because it was within 6 millimeter, I think I was still a candidate for natural healing with the 90-degree brace.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah, and we do aim to get a gap distance 6 millimeters or below. 8 millimeters is kind of on the borderline. If the stumps are 1 centimeter apart, your chance of getting a heal is reduced, and you actually push those stumps together by bending the knee, which is really the main reason you want to bend the knee, to keep those stumps as close as possible together so they can reunite. So that's terrific. And normally people will go into 90 degrees. We need to get them on anticoagulant medication. Did you have any trouble? And we've had a lot of trouble finding doctors in different places around the world that are willing to prescribe them. How did you go around anticoagulants and DVT prevention with that extra risk you get by going to 90?
So that was definitely a challenge. I'm an American in Japan. And then I'm dealing with Australian physios and Australian doctors. What happened is the doctor gave me a few contacts, American doctors that were familiar with the bracing protocol or had gone through the bracing protocol.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of a challenge, but I was able to contact one of them, and she was able to give me a prescription. A doctor in New York. I think her name was Dr. Harris. She gave me a prescription, which I was able to get filled out here on the military base. And then,
That's lucky.
yeah,
It's very hard to get that sort of thing off base. So that was your little extra secret weapon there, I guess.
yeah, exactly. So I got lucky with that. So as soon as I secured that, the prescription, then we went back to Okinawa Physio. I was put in the brace right at about exactly a month from my injury.
Yep,
So, but fortunately, I had been at that 40-degree angle for a couple of weeks. So I
100%.
hope
That's
maybe
pretty
that helped.
definitely
Yeah,
that helped. I would say almost certainly that helped. Yep.
yeah. So yeah, so at that point, just I just went through the protocol with Okinawa Physio.
Yep. And
Um,
then so I heard from your physio Tom that he was raving about what a model patient you were and how interested you were and how quick you understood the whole principle behind ACL healing and the reason behind. But he was also saying, you obviously got a pretty high health IQ and you realized that you had this healing window and you really wanted to maximize your chance of healing during that time. And obviously putting the body in its healthiest possible state during that period is intuitively going to increase your chances of obtaining a heal. So, what sort of things did you do to try and holistically improve the overall condition of your body to get it in the best condition it could be to improve the heal?
yeah, so I mean, being a little older, I mean, muscle protein synthesis is a big deal. We as we age, we have to eat more protein.
Hmm.
Um, I'm I'm already like I was already eating, quite a bit of protein in my diet. I eat a lot of like whole food protein, a lot of
Yep.
red meat, eggs, and good quality cheese, good quality dairy, fermented cabbage like kimchi and sauerkraut, things like that.
Great.
So that's pretty much all in my diet already, and I'm pretty much at that point getting all the protein and fats, healthy fats that your body needs to kind of heal muscles and tissues and all those types of things. But I also did supplement with some collagen and vitamin C with
Nice.
my whey protein, and then as well, I discovered a supplement called Cissus quadrivalengria out of India. I
Hmm.
was taking that as well because that's supposedly good for tendons and ligaments and things like that. And
And if
and
we
then
could,
for my, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to dive in because I'm sure listeners will be interested, and I'm interested. What sort of collagen were you taking, and how many grams a day? Was it in a powdered form or capsule? And was it the bovine, like the cow collagen, or seafood? And
It's one of the really popular brands.
hmm
I don't recall exactly what type. I don't think it was the bone type.
Yep.
It was but it's called collagen peptides.
Collagen peptides. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, but it's it was the powder form, and I just mix it in with my whey. But it's important to get the vitamin C along with that
Yep.
as well. So I took that at the same time, and then yeah, so that pretty much covers like my diet and the supplementation.
And how
As
about
far as,
I was just
go
going to
ahead.
ask about sleep. Because we know, the more we're finding out about sleep and the more we're finding out that it's really one of the um, most important things to supercharge your body's recovery and intuitively optimize chances of healing. Did you focus on sleep? Do you monitor your sleep or monitor heart rate variability or any of those sort of things?
Well, I have a Garmin watch and I monitor that stuff pretty well. I try to
Hmm.
stay on top of my sleep, but I work a full-time job like a lot of other people. So,
Yep.
but yeah, if I if my sleep is lacking, a little bit for a day or two, I try to get back on top of it, make sure I have enough. But I didn't go out of my way to do anything different as far as sleep was concerned. I did notice, however, that wearing a brace while you're sleeping is very uncomfortable.
Yes.
That was really difficult in the beginning.
Did you,
Um,
you got any
it takes
tips
a
for
little while for your
people?
body to get used to it.
Did you have any techniques? We did actually get some because we see so many ACLs. We get this feedback from patients. We got some pillows made custom out of China and bought them in bulk that are kind of a tapered hourglass type shape that is designed to put in between your thighs to keep the brace from hitting against the other knee during sleep. But did you have any tips for other people who might be trying to improve their sleep going through a cross bracing protocol? Just
Yeah, that's
get used to
probably
it.
the only thing I can think of is
Mm,
try to give your body a chance to get used to it as fast as possible. Go to bed early, I guess.
yeah,
Especially in the beginning because you're going to wake up multiple times during the night and it's your sleep will suffer in the very beginning.
yep, yep,
But yeah, I'm sure I did use pillows from time to time, so that does help keeping your one knee off of the other because that just makes it more comfortable if your knee is against the other brace.
yep, yep. Um, okay, and you continued to work on rehab to try and maintain the strength in your knee, even though you're at 90 degrees. You were working on some wall sits, were you? And I guess isometric leg press holds and those types of things.
Yeah, exactly. I was working on a lot of that. It's really important to just keep those muscles activated, pretty routinely, even if you're not doing full, range of motion, like at least getting those isometric holds. Yeah, the wall sits, and then sometimes just an air sit,
Yep,
sometimes glute bridges,
yep,
as much range as I could do on my glute bridges or hamstring bridges just and then calf raises. Just try to exercise like all the muscles around the knee as much as you can and keep them active as much as possible. I I felt like that I didn't really lose that much muscle after as I was coming out of the brace.
awesome.
I was able to maintain it pretty well. My first test after coming out of the brace, I was about a 38% difference between my quad muscles.
Not bad
So not too
considering,
bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's one of the main concerns of people, and one of the most common um, criticisms of it is the muscle use and potentially cartilage loss and stiffness in the knee that can come from being non-weight bearing and being fixed at 90 degrees. Of course, we know that if you work with an expert physio through that process and work hard, it doesn't have to be that bad. But so how was your experience with stiffness as well as the lack of strength? Did you find it was really difficult to get your knee straight? How long did it take you to get your knee straight after you came out of the brace?
That's a great question. I did, have that extension stiffness and of course the flexion stiffness as well.
Mm,
My flexion is almost all the way there, but yeah, the extension, so it seems like the flexion takes a lot longer.
yeah.
But
Fortunately, it's
the
not.
extensions, hmm?
The flex is not as important as the extension, because you don't spend a lot of your life bent in a really deep squatted position, right? But you need to straighten your knee every step pretty much. So getting the extension back is always the number one goal, and the flexion just tends to come with time, as the knee calms down.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would say that the flexion, I'm sorry, the extension probably took about 3 to 4 weeks,
Pretty good.
something like that.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, and the flexion takes a lot longer. But I watch knees over toes guy, so
okay.
I want to get the flexion going too. You know what I mean?
Well, he's a hard act to follow. I watch him and think, wow, I'm going to get my knee that bent. But I'm 53 now, and um, yeah, deep flexion's not the most comfortable for me either. Um, but yeah,
Well, the other thing too for me is I've been in Japan for so long. I was able to do the Asian sit, no problem. The Asian
Caesar.
squat.
Yes.
I could be comfortable in that position. So I already had a really good flexion um, before I was injured. So I'm trying to get that back if possible.
Nice. Okay, so let's go back into the story behind the healing. You did the 12-week protocol, I assume, and then went for
Yes.
the critical follow-up MRI to have a look at the healing. What did you have that follow-up MRI, and when did you
Yeah,
have
we
it?
sure
And
did. Yeah, that was I think that was in April. So that was about 4 months after the injury.
Mhm.
And then the MRI the ACL and the MRI looks much better. Looked very, very continuous, and it had a dark gray color to it. So it wasn't black like normal ACLs are when they're fully healed,
Yep.
but it had that darker gray color, and it was continuous. So it
Awesome.
looked really great. And then I noticed that just I was able to just start to move around better, and I felt really confident on it, more and more confident. Yeah,
Awesome.
even to the point where so exactly 6 months after my injury, I went on a trail run. Because that's one of my favorite things to do on the weekends is
Yep.
I go for a trail run every weekend. And so for me, that just being able to get back out there in nature and all the lateral movements and all the little short and long strides and things with the trail and the technical aspects of it, I'm able to really like just focus in and then enjoy nature and out there.
Love it.
And yeah, I was just so stoked and so happy to just be able to do that again
Oh
six
yeah.
months after my injury.
Yeah, what a great story. Yeah. And I have to say, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all physios who work with ACL healing, that pivotal re-MRI healing day when your patient gets a good healing result after working so hard is probably some of the most satisfying days we have in our career when you see that nice improved line of the ACL. You really want to do a fist pump and scream out the window with joy. So I'm sure the guys really enjoyed who are taking care of you seeing those results as well. So that's terrific. And so you said you were back doing trail running at 6 months and no issues there. How long are we now post injury and what are you up to now?
I'm right at 7 months from my injury. So I just started doing the trail running about a month ago. But yeah, so the other thing too is once I started getting that full extension again, I was able to start, doing those heavier lifts and heavier weights with the deadlift, with squat, which I did before I got injured. I was doing about 120 kilo deadlift per reps, 100 kilo squat per reps. I'm getting back there. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm pretty close. I'm at 100. I'm at about 15 kilograms lighter now, but I'm working my way up.
Awesome. And have you got any other goals that you're aiming for? Any plans to go back to your indoor soccer, or you've given up on that?
You know, I think I could probably live the rest of my life without playing soccer at this point. Unfortunately, it's just I think it's just yeah, the pivoting sports for me are probably going to be retired. But what I would like to be able to do, and I want to work my way into it eventually, and it might be 6 months down the road or so, but I'd like to get back to tennis, and
Hmm.
pickleball, some simple sports like that where you're not doing a whole lot of crazy pivoting. There's probably a little bit of pivoting in there, but it's not as extreme as like soccer, basketball, skiing, football, all those types of things.
Yep. Yep. Terrific. And so, on reflection, looking back, is there any regrets that you've had or things that you wish you'd done a little bit better? And overall, I mean, obviously sounds like you're very happy with the result and it sounds like you've had a great result, but Do you think it was worth it going through that inconvenience of having your knee bent at 90 degrees? Because I know a lot of people hear that and think I just can't see myself living for a few weeks with my knee bent at 90 degrees. How did you feel like that sacrifice of going through that hard period of, just being uncomfortable for a lot of the day was worth it?
I would say it's well worth it, and it's well worth trying, as opposed to getting surgery right away. I mean, you can always get surgery, right?
100,
Like
100%.
if you don't, if you're not a candidate for the bracing protocol, or if you've tried the bracing protocol and for whatever reason you didn't get a decent heal out of it, you can always schedule a surgery and go that route. But the whole surgery thing, as I looked more into it, I got a little bit more scared of it, I mean, personally, just because of everything that they're doing and how long it takes you out. As far as like, drilling through the femur and the tibia, anchoring a new, ligament there, and potentially taking one of your hamstring tendons to become a ligament. It just looks really painful. And then your knee is really swollen. And then I guess you're extended when you come out of surgery, and then you're healing for a while, but now you have to relearn how to fire your quad or something like that. Like it looks like it's a very difficult process to go through, much more difficult than the bracing protocol.
Yeah, I love that last sentence she said, because I think people just kind of assume that surgery is almost like a shortcut. I couldn't be bothered going through that inconvenience of a bracing protocol. I'll just have the surgery. That's much easier. Whereas, and I think people don't think about it to the depth that you did and understand number one, how painful it is, and two, what a massive injury or second insult to the knee, all that trauma that you just outlined that goes on with surgery is, and how in many ways it's a bigger injury to the knee than what you did on the football court, and takes a longer time to recover from. So yeah, I think that's great that you put it in those terms. Um, all right, terrific. So you're back running, back in the gym, squatting hard, and almost got full flexion. And yeah, you any other goals left remaining? Because 7 months is quite early, really. We normally think about the cross bracing protocol as not necessarily a shortcut to return to sport, because in the past some people have gotten a little bit too eager and returned to sport, and a little bit too soon. And we do know that that ligament will continue to heal for up to 18 months. So if you MRI'd your knee today, you'll probably find that it still doesn't have that beautiful black taut look, and it often takes up to a year and a half for it to look like a normal ACL.
I've heard that, and I can't believe it takes so long to heal. It's crazy. But I am scheduled for another follow-up MRI in November, so I guess we'll take a look at it at that point, and I'll just keep plugging away and doing my exercises and doing my running, and just trying to do a lot of single leg stuff too as well, just to try to keep that good stability and strength on each of the single leg exercises as well. So yeah, that's the plan.
Terrific. I love it. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for sharing your story. What I really like about this is how it highlights how much our understanding of ACL injury is evolving, and how you were open-minded and such a early adopter of this still quite experimental field of ACL healing, and that for a long time an ACL tear was often framed very simply that it can't heal, therefore you need surgery. And we know that the story can be much more nuanced than that. So we should add to the caveat, doesn't mean every ACL will heal, because we know there's certain tear types that have a poor healing ability, and the cross bracing protocol is not right for everybody. And because of the risk of DVT, nobody should do it unassisted, and you should always get anticoagulant medication if you need to go to 90 degrees. But yeah, it's great that we're continuing to ask questions about ACL management, ACL healing, and choosing the right pathway for every patient. And yeah, I loved your holistic mindset as well of trying to focus on getting your body on the most optimal state to facilitate the healing. So thanks again, Patrick, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Knee Gurus podcast. Thanks for joining, Patrick.
Thank you, Bevan.
Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Knee Gurus, brought to you by Asia Physio. To learn more or explore online consultations, visit telephysio.com or asiaphysio.com. If you found today's discussion helpful, share it with someone who's exploring their knee recovery injury options too. Thank you, and bye for now.